All right, Matt, continuing on with Fight Night Picks Parry Counter, we really appreciate all the questions that have been asked under any YouTube video. If you got a question you want to see us answer, we're all for it because we love this segment. We're going to keep it going. Now, AJ got a question in earlier, has another good one here, missed the boat with the first round, but like I said, keep the questions coming at us. So his question is, one of Conor's coaches was on Ariel's ESPNMMA podcast and was eyeing a return for Conor on the International Fight Week card. The discussion seemed to lean toward Gaethje being his next matchup. Now, if he wins, that immediately puts him in the driver's seat as the number one contender. However, I'm still on the fence that Conor should complete the Diaz trilogy, which will ensure his cardio is good and skills are fine-tuned before having to go fight one of the top lightweights in the division. Or maybe should wait on the Diaz fight because Hooker could make the case for the next title shot with a win over Dustin Porier. I'd like to hear y'all's thoughts on this. Awesome question, really, AJ. And it really gets us into the complexities of the UFC's lightweight division and to an extent, welterweight as well with Nate Diaz. Matt, in terms of Conor McGregor, so he has a big win against Cowboy Cerrone to start off the year. We haven't seen him since. Legal woes in Ireland that we haven't really heard of since then. And now we're at an awkward spot where we've had fights canceled or postponed, and who knows the status of International Fight Week. One of the things that's been brought up, I know, by my co-host on Loudmouth MMA Podcast Network with Early Stoppage, John Franklin, he said maybe what they do with International Fight Week is they absolutely overload it if it's able to happen. And you have cards Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, you have great big main events.
With a good time.
It's just absolutely stacked. And then even on Saturday when you have your pay-per-view, just have like
three title fights.
Make something happen. We haven't seen that since what? Maybe UFC 200?
217.
When it was supposed to happen? For International Fight Week.
International Fight Week, yeah.
And of course, we don't have the Ultimate Fighter. We still have Dana White's Contender Series, so there's a lot of moving pieces, and especially, like I said, with the canceled fights and postponed fights. But in terms of Conor McGregor, at 170, he's in a good position with a win over Cerrone. At 155, there's still...
We got to stop with that talk.
There's still some conversation there. Now, I think ultimately the plan in the home was probably at 155 and not at 170. In terms of being in a driver's seat, I know when he beat Cerrone, a lot of people were kind of saying, hey, maybe he's the next guy to challenge at 170 because we don't have a challenger there yet. And at 55...
Here's the problem, though. Even if you're a McGregor fan, do you really want to see Conor McGregor fight Kamaru Usman? Because I don't care how much you like him. Like, watch the Khabib fight. Kamaru Usman's just Khabib, but way bigger. Like, they have the exact same style. Kamaru's probably better on the feet. But when it comes to the ground, yes, Khabib has more, like, intricate guard passes and whatnot. Kamaru Usman outweighs Conor McGregor by at least 30 pounds. He's taller than him.
You sound like...
I sound like... Yeah, and he's a sumo wrestler. But no, Kamaru Usman does everything Khabib does, but he's a lot bigger than him. That's the problem. So even if you are a McGregor fan, I don't understand why you'd be trying to go for that fight. I get you want to see him be champion at 3 different weight classes, but if we're being very realistic with ourselves, Conor doesn't beat Woodley, he doesn't beat Covington, and he doesn't beat Kamaru Usman. So I take those 3 names off the table. I think that there are 2 fights at welterweight for him. In my mind, the Conor McGregor sweepstakes, if you will, come down to 5 different fighters. I think we have the Jorge Masvidal fight. I think that there is talk about that, just due to the fact that Masvidal's such a big star at this point, and if you put 2 big stars together, it's going to guarantee great business. Nate Diaz trilogy, of course, but the problem is I don't see Conor taking that, because if he takes the Diaz trilogy, it's his sort of way of admitting, okay, Masvidal's one ahead of me. You know what I mean? Because Masvidal already got that Diaz win, and he stopped Diaz. Conor wasn't able to stop Diaz, and Diaz was able to stop him. Not that that has much to do with it. They just... You're kind of admitting that that guy's ahead of you if you go right in and fight the guy who we just beat. That's all. Now, 155, I think there's 3 names there. I think we do have Gaethje, we have Tony Ferguson, and we have Khabib. Khabib and Tony are going to cancel each other out, though, because, of course, one of those guys are going to win, and he would more likely fight the winner. I don't think he fights Justin Gaethje is the problem. I know there's been a lot of talk about that, mainly from Ali Abdelaziz, of course, because he manages Khabib and Justin Gaethje. So, of course, he's going to want 2 of his athletes to get that big payday. But I don't see them doing the Gaethje fight for this reason alone. Hardcores know who Gaethje is. Casuals know who Gaethje is. That's a really good thing if you want to fight Conor McGregor. The problem is, Justin Gaethje has a style that even if you beat him, you're not going to be able to fight for a long period of time afterwards. If you look at Eddie Alvarez and Dustin Porier, they both beat Justin Gaethje, the only 2 guys to ever do it. They beat him by stoppage, but the shape that they were both in, even after those wins, like, they were not able to fight for a meaningful period of time afterwards. So I don't think the UFC risks not their golden goose, but they don't want to risk their poster boy fighting a guy who, even if you beat him, you're not going to come out of that fight the same way. Especially with the whole leg kick problem, too. Conor McGregor stands in the karate style. What's the one thing that we see beat the karate style almost every time? Anthony Pettis did it really well against Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Throw leg kicks with reckless abandonment. They've only got one leg in front, and you're going to force him to be an orthodox fighter, and he won't be able to fight from southpaw. Getting way too in-depth on that, but anyways, I just don't see them making that matchup. I think that they will end up going with either the Masvidal fight, or they're going to try an angle to get the winner of Tony Ferguson versus Khabib. I really only see those two as being the main options for Conor McGregor.
For me, there's ultimately quite a few different avenues. You brought up the majority of them. I'll throw two more at you. I think the Hooker and Porier angle is a good one. I just don't know. There's such a logjam at the top of the division. The winner of that fight, what do you get? Because if you're Porier or Hooker and you win that fight, you probably get a Gaethje, or you probably get somebody else that's near the top. But you're not going to get a title shot, because we've seen how it worked out for Dustin Poirier against Khabib. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So in terms of nuts and bolts, I'd like to see a rematch between Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier. I just don't think it's going to happen. The other rematch that I want to see is Max Holloway. Max Holloway. Because for Max Holloway, yeah, there's rumors out there. There's odds on it with Volkanovski, and Volkanovski's actually favored, a 2-1 favorite, which I think is kind of crazy, but I know how you feel about Max Holloway. But I think if Max Holloway makes the full move up to 155, if you have him fight Conor McGregor, you can sell it as a rematch, even though it was really, really early on in their careers. It's still a good fight. It's still one that you could main event with, and you could counter my argument there and say Max Holloway, he's been in main events before. They don't sell all that well. Who cares? He's taking on him. That's the problem. Yeah, he's very likable. He's very camera friendly, and you're putting him up against the biggest star in the sport. So why would you not make that?
And it would actually be kind of fun, because you wouldn't have a guy who's going to try to talk crap back to Conor McGregor. You're going to have a guy who's got his son at fight week the whole time. It's going to be really hard to talk bad about him. So it'd kind of be funny. I really like your two options. Just the one thing I was going to throw in there, I think it really matters who wins the Dan Hooker and Dustin Poirier fight. Just do the names of both guys. I know Dan Hooker is starting to get a little bit more shine, a little bit more push, but at this point in time, Dustin Poirier is by far the bigger name out of those two. So if Dan Hooker wins, I don't see him in the Conor McGregor sweepstakes. If Poirier wins, I think he's more likely to get the fight, although I don't see either one getting it. But I do think in that fight, it does kind of matter who wins, and that would be more likely to.
So, to recap, we've got all of these names. I had Holloway, and I had possibly the Poirier-Hooker winner. Then we also have Justin Gaethje. We have Tony Ferguson and Khabib. We've got Jorge Masvidal. We got Nate Diaz. Let's maybe not set it in stone, but at least make our case or make our pick for the one. And I laid out just two names, and I believe in one of them pretty heavily, and it's not talked about. I think Max Holloway's the guy at 155. Really? You put those guys in a fight. Now, we saw what happened with Max Holloway for the interim lightweight championship against Dustin Poirier, where he lost that fight. He didn't win. So is he back at 45 again to challenge against Volkanovski, or does he make the full move up to 55? Well, if he fights Conor McGregor, would you give him an interim belt? Would you put him in title conversation? Would they be the number one challenger, the winner of that fight?
This is what I would do. I would really like to see that fight. I do think the rematch should look a lot different. I think Max needs the 145 belt to be able to do that and jump right into the 155. I would like to see him rematch Volkanovski. Let's say it gets over on Volkanovski. Then you could immediately, I wouldn't even bother doing the trilogy of Volkanovski. I'd wait for that a little bit down the line when both guys have way bigger stars, then you have a kind of a super fight going on. But I would like to see Max get that 145 belt. And then if you could have the 145 pound champion, the belt that McGregor never really lost, have them fight at 155 as your, not for an interim title, just do it as the non-title fight main event. Have it 5 rounds, kind of like Conor and Cowboy. And Cowboy might be more well-known to the casual fans, but if you have the 145-pound champ fighting Conor McGregor at 155, I think that sells a crazy amount, especially the personality of Max Holloway. Volkanovski, though, is a big problem to try to solve, so that's a big issue. I'm going to put my set in stone. I think it's more likely to be at 170, and I don't think Max is going to be able to fight at 170. Not that he won't be able to, I just don't see him moving up to welterweight anytime soon.
I've got him at 55.
Oh, I hear you, but I do think Conor McGregor is going to keep on trying to fight at 170, but he's going to try to keep on fighting lightweights at 170. Saying all that, I think he's going to fight Masvidal. I think that's the more likely of all the options, just because the stars sort of aligned. Both guys got their massive superstar off of Nate Diaz. Both guys had crazy all-time fights with him. And Jorge Masvidal is the one guy right now who might be sort of the casuals champ, if you will. Everyone knows.
I mean, he's the BMF champ.
Exactly. He's the BMF champ. The UFC has him all over the place. He's got his own, what is it, tequila now?
Mezcal Tequila. He's also in the Poker Stars commercial with Amanda Nunes and Bruce Buffer.
Like Jorge Masvidal, it's really crazy to just see how he's been able to sort of reinvent his career, and hopefully you can keep that going for him. I see that as being a big fight. Because A, you have two of the best pure boxers in all of MMA. You have two guys who The press conferences would be absolutely insane. They'd be able to sell that fight, no doubt. The Rock would probably be there. I'm sure Bono would probably be there. He's a big Conor McGregor fan. So you could definitely have a really cool main event. Do it in Dublin for all I care. But I think that is your most likely, just because Masvidal's the biggest star of all those other guys. I know Usman's champ at 170, but more people know who Masvidal is. And I think that'd be a really fun fight. But I don't think you can really go wrong no matter what. Conor McGregor, say what you want about him. I say this a lot. I don't really like John Jones. Can't say I like Conor McGregor. But the sport feels a little bit more fun when your big stars are involved, because there's a lot more hype around the events. More people are talking about it. And it's always just a lot more fun. So hopefully we do get one of those matchups sooner rather than later.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's all sorts of people that you can match up against them. Let us know in the comments who you're picking. Matt's going Masvidal. I'm going outside the box with Max Holloway.
I don't think you can go wrong either way.
It's hard to go wrong with any of the fighters that we list off. Maybe there's some fighters out there that we didn't think of that you're thinking of as well. So let us know in the comments, as well as any other questions, comments, concerns, what you have for us with Fight Night Picks, Parry Counter. Listen, we're having a ton of fun answering your questions in the absence of fights. But remember, we do have picks for Cage Warriors 113, so make sure you check those out. And as always, Matt, with Fight Night Picks, let's get into it.